Good morning. Welcome to Bayview. I say this every week, but maybe meaning a little bit more this time around. Good to be in the house, or maybe better yet, good to be out of the house. I've been here since 2010, which I know is a long time, but what was that? That wasn't just winter. That was angry winter. Like that was like you put a ill-tempered ferret in a sack and I don't know, but we survived it. We made it through. I know a lot of you joined us online, and those that could make it out last Sunday, well done. But just good to be back, kind of getting out, things getting back to normal, digging out still. And I know it doesn't feel like it, but spring is going to come eventually, just in time for the air show maybe, but it'll be here. But the reality is that's what we do. We just keep going, and we're excited about things. I know I'm excited about the incredible women's conference they had yesterday, and just the leadership that Nicole Rogers and her team put together just for an incredible dynamic time. So that was awesome. And here we are. We're right on the cusp of the big events of spring. Good Friday coming up April 3rd, and we just really want to invite you to join us for that. It'll be at 6 o'clock on that night. It'll be right here in this auditorium. And it's really going to be a night themed around experiencing the cross. And be focused around that. Just really stepping into those moments to understand and appreciate and experience with Jesus the things that he went through on our behalf. And it really does a great job of setting the stage, not just on the calendar, but setting the stage for us individually in our hearts for what happens on Sunday. And that's Easter Sunday. And that's when the celebration happens. And so we have 3 Easter services, and they're at 8, 9:30, and 11. And there's Bayview kids and childcare at all of them. And so I encourage you to pick the one that's going to work for you, but they're going to be packed. And here's why they're going to be packed: because you're doing what we asked you to do. We have been challenging everyone to join us in making sure that this is an Easter where every person that's in our circle of life has the opportunity to hear the gospel of Jesus Christ. And we do that by offering these 5 packs. And we've challenged you to grab a pack on your way out here in the room or at the main resource center in the main lobby. And there's got to be 5 people in your life: friends, family, coworkers, classmates, neighbors. You know there's 5. And here's the deal. Most of them are waiting for an invite. It sounds crazy, but a lot of them, in fact, we're told 80% of people would say yes if asked. All you got to do is ask. And we're asking you to take these 5 packs, invite 5 people to Easter Sunday, and then we're going to see what Jesus wants to do with that. And the reality is this: I'm not excited because I want to be able to be like, hey, look how many people we had. I'm excited because every person that's in every seat is a person who's going to hear what we call the good news of Jesus Christ. And so we invite you to join us in that. Let's pack the services out so that he is glorified in that message that's out. So grab those on your way out. Excited about Easter and everything that's going to happen with that. Thinking through this week as we're getting ready, I was kind of contemplating on moments of my life that I can look back now and see that they were significant. But there's so many times I think in life we hit these moments, and in the actual moment we don't realize it's something significant. And I know there's been several in my life. I know there's probably in your life. For me, I think the biggest one I look back to is that evening in August of 1991. I was a soccer player in college, and we're there at this team meeting, and a teammate of mine came over and asked me for a favor. It was just a favor. So that didn't feel significant, right? I mean, okay, yeah. And he said, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you take my girlfriend's sister with you tomorrow to go pick up soccer equipment? Yeah, sure. Not significant. Just doing a favor, no big deal. I didn't realize, who she was. I don't even know if I knew his girlfriend that well. Didn't realize the significance of the moment when he tapped me on the shoulder and I turned around and I was introduced to this little blonde-haired hottie. I can say it now. I thought it then. I can say it now. I didn't know the significance of that moment. I didn't know as I introduced myself. I said, hey, I'm Chris. He's like, hey, I'm Dory. I didn't know that this was going to go any further than just a road trip. I had no idea that introduction would lead to over 3 decades of marriage. That would lead us to 4 beautiful kids and 4 incredible in-law kids. There would be 3 grandkids part of that package. I didn't know that introduction and that favor would lead us to experience traveling to different places all over the country and watching God do miracles. I didn't know that I would fall in love with her more every day from that day on. I didn't know. It was just a moment, right? And I think sometimes we lose sight that sometimes these moments are so significant, but we just can't see it. And I say all that because today we're looking at something that we know is significant in the book of John, but at the time they didn't even know. Because you know what they're having? They're having a dinner party. That's what they're doing. Lazarus has just been raised from the dead, so that's a pretty big party moment. They're all at his house. His sister Mary and Martha are there, and Jesus is the guest of honor. But it's a dinner party. And I don't know what dinner parties were like back then. I'm sure there was like food and drinking and laughter. I don't know if they had some version of Old Testament Pictionary or something. I don't know. But it was a dinner party. And nobody knew that this was a significant moment. We know that this was the beginning of the end. We know that after this party, things begin to cascade. We knew that we were going to enter Holy Week and that Jesus would be betrayed and arrested. We knew that he would be tried and punished and then hung on a cross. We know that he's going to die and he's going to come back. We know the story because we've got the book. But in the moment, it was just a dinner party. And everybody went about their business. It says that Lazarus, some translations say Lazarus was reclined at the table. I don't know. That sounds awesome if they had recliners at the table. I don't think that's what that meant. But in the middle of all this, one person sensed something different. In the middle of all this, one person recognized that this was a significant moment. So if you have Bibles, we're in John, we're in chapter 12. We're going to look at the first 8 verses here. And it reads like this, starting in verse 1. 6 days before the Passover celebration began, Jesus arrived in Bethlehem, the home of Lazarus, the man he had raised from the dead. A dinner party was prepared in Jesus' honor. Martha served, and Lazarus was among those who ate with him. Then Mary took a 12-ounce jar of expensive perfume made from the essence of nard, and she anointed Jesus' feet with it, wiping his feet with her hair. The house was filled with the fragrance. But Judas Iscariot, the disciple who would soon betray him, said, "That perfume was worth a year's wages. It should have been sold and the money given to the poor." Not that he cared for the poor. He was a thief. And since he was in charge of the disciples' money, he often stole some for himself. Jesus replied, "Leave her alone. She did this in preparation for my burial. You will always have the poor among you, but you will not always have me." Now, I know there's other characters there in this story, but there's kind of 3 main characters that we're looking at. The first one is Jesus. He's the only one in the room that knows exactly what's going to happen, right? He knows. He's the Son of God. He understands all the events that are coming his way. He kind of verbalizes there in verse 7 when he says, "Hey, leave her alone. This is in preparation for my burial." Later on in the chapter, in verse 27, he says that my soul is deeply troubled. Should I pray, "Father, save me from this hour"? But this is the very reason I came. He knew. He knew what would happen in the coming days, and he knew how it would all play out, and he knew how that story ended. But nobody else did. Then we've got these 2 other characters. Both of them know one thing: Jesus is here. Jesus is sitting in the room. And yet the responses are so different. We have Mary. Oddly enough, we actually don't know that much about Mary. We know, that she was the sister of Martha and Lazarus. We know that we see her in a couple moments through the life of Jesus on earth. We don't even know what happened to her after Jesus' ascension back to heaven. Nobody really knows where she lived out the rest of her life. But we know this: she was recognized and called as a devout disciple of Jesus. What a cool tag to have given to you. A devout disciple of Jesus. So you got Mary. But then over here we've got Judas. Judas Iscariot. What do we know? Well, we know that he was one of the original 12. We know that he followed and walked with Jesus for 3 years. He saw the miracles, heard the teachings. I don't know where his heart was the whole time. Only God does. But we know at some point he became a thief. We know at some point he recognized that as the treasurer, every time money came through their little posse, that he could skim off the top. We know that he was so driven by money that he would soon betray Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. We have two very different people in the same room with Jesus, and two very different responses. And anytime I read a story, very much like anytime I go to a movie or I read a story about some fiction or something, there's always the good guy and the bad guy. And of course, I think a lot of us are always like, oh, of course I'm the good guy. Like, I love Star Wars, but there's never been a time where, like, I would love to be Darth Vader. Nope, I want to be Luke Skywalker. I want to be Han Solo. I want to be the hero. I want to be the good guy. And we do that even in the Bible at times. Like, I read some of these stories, like, well, of course I'm not going to be Judas. I'm not going to betray Jesus. And I'm not saying that's what it's about, but if Jesus is in the room, how am I responding? And I think the contrast of Mary and Judas here brings up some important questions for us today. Because their responses are so opposite. In fact, the first response we see right here is this: generosity or greed. Jesus is in the room, how do I respond? The funny thing is, greed is one of those things that we do not have to be taught. It's not an acquired skill. Like even as kids, we know how to be greedy, right? We know how to hoard. It's mine, it's mine, it's mine. Growing up as a pastor's kid, there was challenges. I mean, it was fine. Dad preached every Sunday and Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, Saturday and then back to Sunday. Only one of those days was actually on stage. But we heard Dad preach a lot. We were at church a lot, like every time it was open, we were there. In fact, I heard one pastor's kid put it this way. He said that he had a drug problem. Every time church was open, he was drugged to church. I've known how to set up a fellowship hall for a potluck since I was 5. I can unfold tables and carry chairs like nobody's business. But one of the things I remember growing up as a pastor's kid and never missing church was how hungry I would get during church. Like, there was something about attending Sunday services that brought about the deepest levels of need for nourishment. Like, I didn't know if I was going to make it some Sundays. Until this one gentleman started attending our church when I was a kid. I don't know his name. I never knew his name. I remember he always wore a dark brown suit. And all the kids knew this guy because we knew him as one thing: the Peanut Man. Because the Peanut Man always had his pockets well stocked with life-giving salted peanuts. And as soon as Sunday school was over, you were on the hunt for the Peanut Man, because if you didn't get something from him, you may not make it to noon. And you get up there and it'd be like, can I have some peanuts? And he'd give you those. The thing happened, though, as it developed and his fame grew and the church grew, is that, the number of kids outgrew his capacity of his pockets. And so it was very common that you get to the Peanut Man. And I remember going there and like, hey, can I have some peanuts? And he would reach in and give me a whole handful. But he'd give me these instructions. He'd say, all right, hey, listen, now you need to go share those with your friends. And being a good pastor's kid, I would say, yes, sir. And then I would go and hide with my peanuts. In fact, I can't tell you with integrity that I remember a single time sharing any of them. Those are mine, because I was greedy. And we know how that feeling goes. We know what it's like to have not enough, to never, there's never more, I always want more. I can't never get enough, or to hoard or to take. And we know what that's like. There's something in us that we always want something we don't have, and we want more of what we already have. But then there's this idea of generosity. And I think what we see here is we see something really incredible with Mary. Because Mary comes in and she doesn't just bring any perfume. She brings the best perfume. See, nard, or in some translations it's called spikenard. It was a well-known fragrance. but it wasn't common. In fact, we don't even know how Mary got it because we don't read that Mary was wealthy, but this was something wealthy people would have. And it went all the way back into the Old Testament, the knowledge and being familiar with the smell of it. In fact, in Solomon, in the book of Song of Solomon, it says that while the king was at his table, my perfume spread its fragrance. And this is talking about the smell of spikenard, of nard. And anytime you smelt it, you knew what it was. It had a distinct smell from anything else. And if you smelt it, you knew one thing for sure. Somebody has brought out the very best. Mary didn't just bring something good. Mary came, and out of this desire to express herself, she gave Jesus what she valued most. Judas had a different response. He looked down and saw these actions and quickly rebuked it. And although he tried to paint the picture under the guise of like, well, I'm concerned for the poor, I love that the Bibles make sure we realize like, yeah, he didn't care. He was upset because if he could have sold that could have been more money in his account. There could have been more for him, more to take, more to line his pockets with. And it didn't matter that Jesus was in the room. He didn't care about that. He knew one thing: I want more out of this situation. And God's known all along that greed is an issue. He's known how much that would be a struggle for us in our humanness. He says this in Luke 12:15. This is Jesus' words. Beware, guard against every kind of greed. Life is not measured by how much you own. And I see that it says, beware of every kind of greed. And although it's funny to think about being greedy with my candy or greedy with this and all that, have you ever asked yourself, am I greedy with God? Am I greedy with my relationship with Jesus Christ? Because greed takes itself down a form of like, I'm a taker. Enough is never enough. Thanks for the blessings. Now let's get some more. And greed holds on to everything we have. And I know that's not a nice thought, and maybe a thought we've ever had, like, that I don't think I'm greedy with God. Well, let me ask you this. Does he have your very best? Does he have full access to the things you value more than anything? Because I think that's for some of us where we get tripped up. That I'm willing to give Jesus some good stuff, but man, there's areas of my life, or there's decisions I'm making, or there's choices I like, or there's things that make me feel good. There's just parts of my life I'm not quite ready for him to have that yet. And so he doesn't get my very best. Because in order to not be greedy with God, check this out, we've got to be generous with God. And when we talk about generosity, it's easy to think about being generous. Some of you are crazy generous people. There are people here you're generous with your time. You're generous with your abilities, and you're willing to help somebody. You're willing to do whatever it takes. Some of you are so generous, you just give and you give and you give and you give. Are you generous with God? And this isn't about money. It's about everything. That when we look through the scope of what Jesus came to do, and that Jesus is here and he's in the room, do I have a heart that is generous? Or I'm holding something back? I think it then has to explore this. Devotion versus self-interest. I mean, devotion is a good word. I mean, I think that if I were to ask anybody here, like, hey, are you devoted to some things? Yeah, I think we'd have a list of things. Well, I'm devoted. Like, I'm devoted to this. Here's the deal. Being devoted, it's a big, big deal. Like, it's probably bigger than we recognize. Devoted means that it's more important than anything else. It is a full-on everything. There's arguably the best. I mean, in fact, I don't like that term because I don't think there's anything arguable about it. The best basketball player ever was Michael Jordan, right? I mean, I'm just telling you how it is. You can disagree with me, I'm right. So, the best basketball ever. And here's the deal. He was not the greatest that ever was just because he was talented. He wasn't the greatest there was just because he could jump or just because he was gifted. It was none of that. That was part of it. You know why he was the best that ever played? Because he was devoted to the game. Every single day of his career, he had a routine. And it was a non-game day. It would start every day at 5 a.m. with a thing called Breakfast Club. And that sounds great. That sounds like coffee and donuts, but I promise you it wasn't. Breakfast Club was a 2-hour intensive workout, followed up by a really nice thing called more workout. And then he'd have maybe a meal in there somewhere, and then you know what he would do every day? He would shoot at least 1,000 baskets every single day. You know why he did that? He was devoted. See, that's devotion right there, right? So when Mary comes, Mary's not just come to express, hey, it's great that you're here. Something in her, she's got to show that she is fully devoted to Jesus, that nothing else matters. And she comes and she pushes all that aside, and she comes and she kneels at his feet, and she pulls out this perfume that's more valuable than anything else she possibly owns. A year's wages is what the value was. And she pours it on his feet, but there's more to express. She's got to continue to show her devotion. So what does she do? She begins to wipe his feet with her hair. And she doesn't care what everybody else thinks. And she's not concerned if they like it or not. And she doesn't care about the value of what she just poured out and the generosity she just poured out. All she knows is this, is that Jesus is in the room and nothing else matters. Judas had a different response. Judas thought it was ridiculous. Judas didn't like it. Because for Judas, it was missed opportunity for himself. Like Judas solely thought through the filter of this, like, this action is taking something away from me. This action affects me negatively. This action does not benefit me. I can't make money out of this action. And he was driven by his self-interest. And here's the deal. I think some of us, it's not that we're not saved. I mean, I think most everybody here, maybe if you're here today, you've probably most likely said that prayer and asked Jesus in your life, and you're saved and you're forgiven, and that's great. But it doesn't mean we're fully devoted. Because if we're honest with ourselves, I'm trying to serve Jesus and I'm still trying to serve myself. And one thing we know from the Bible, you can't serve both. We read this in Matthew 6:24, again from Jesus. No one can serve two masters, for you will hate one and you will love the other. You will be devoted to one, despise the other. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. Now, this isn't saying just about money. It's saying this, that you can't be devoted to Jesus and yet still try to serve yourself. A lot of us are really good at being devoted to me. I like Jesus. I love being forgiven. But my followership is one of convenience. It's when it works out. Because there's just times where, I'm just being straight up with you. I'm not calling anybody out. And if you feel like I'm preaching to you, I have not followed you around this week. I couldn't get out of my driveway, I promise, right? But some of us here, if we're honest, like, yeah, Jesus is important when there's not something more important. I'll read my Bible, I'll get into His Word, I'll go to church, I'll do these things, I'll make it about Jesus when it works well for me. But there's just times where the other things are just a little bit better, and we're not devoted. Devotion to Jesus means that we're in a room with a bunch of people, and there's awesome things happening over here. They're playing some games. The food buffet's happening, and they got all my favorites. My bros are over here laughing and joking and having a good time. That sounds fun. And I don't see any of it because Jesus is in the room. Which means also, is it about worship or critical? Now, it seems like a weird contrast, but that's exactly what we have here, right? We have one person, we have Mary, and this is a deep act of worship. Jesus is in the room, and this isn't the first time she's demonstrated this. The first time we're introduced to Mary and Martha, Jesus is in the room, and Martha's running around with her head cut off, and she's like, Mary, why aren't you helping me out? What are you doing? And Mary's like, I'm sitting at the feet of Jesus. Mary had already demonstrated that this was more important than anything to her. She'd already shown her devotion, but something in this moment, something in her spirit, something maybe the sense that this was a bigger moment than just dinner, something in her had to be expressed. She couldn't hold it in. She had to go and she had to sit at his feet, and then it wasn't enough. And no, I need to anoint his feet. And she took out this year's wages of perfume and she poured it out, and she had to do that. And it wasn't enough. I've got to wipe his feet with my hair. I've got to worship him with everything. There's not enough things to do. Nothing else mattered. She just had to give all to him. That was worship. Judas watched what he deemed to be a silly act. And yeah, he starts by shaking his head at Mary. Ridiculous. I can't believe she'd do this. But beyond that, he became judgmental and critical of Jesus' response. His words were directed at Jesus. Hey, what are you doing? Don't you know don't you know what we could have done with this money? How do you not see this? Don't you get it? And I know it's harsh, and maybe it's a hard thing to try and rattle around our heads and examine ourselves through, but how many of us here, if we're honest, might have to say, you know what? I think I've been critical of God. I think I might come to church and sing the songs, and I do my best, but I think deep down, I think I've been critical. Because I don't understand everything he's done in my life or what he's doing. I don't agree with it all. I don't even like some of it. Like, why wouldn't he do this? Shouldn't he have fixed this by now? Shouldn't he have healed this by now? Why on earth would he allow pain to come into my life? Why do I be feeling loneliness? Why would we be struggling like this? Why would we go through this valley? And there's so many times, and I've been right there too, where although it's like, God, I know you're almighty, but I think you missed this one. And I become critical in my heart. I begin to question his goodness and his sovereignty. And in his will, here's the reality, I become disappointed in his will. But that's not how this is supposed to go. That happens when I misinterpret promises. That happens when I put misplaced expectations on God. And somewhere along the line came this narrative that maybe I'm supposed to understand everything you're doing, and it'd be great if you checked in with me, and I should agree with it, and I should like it. And let me promise you this: that was never part of the equation. That was never part of the promise package. Everything about it says this: that you will not understand everything I'm doing, and you will not agree with it. And I'm not telling you you're going to like it. All I know is this: is that I will be faithful. And it doesn't mean that everything is going to be perfect. It means this, that there are going to be awesome seasons where we're walking through the mountaintops and we're celebrating, and there's victories and it's good days and we're laughing. And we can praise God in those moments. But there's going to be other seasons where it's dark. We're going through valleys. And there's pain. There's fear. And there's confusion. I don't understand why now? And we think maybe this should have happened, or the timing's off, and we have all these things in our head. And the promises tell us that it's not that he comes in and takes us out of that path, but that he walks that path with us. And that in worship, it's so much more than just singing the songs on a Sunday morning. Worship means this: that when times are good, my heart cries out and points to him. Hey, that's all God. When times are when there's a celebration, I'm celebrating what he's doing in my life. I'm celebrating the work that he's done and his faithfulness. When times are dark and they hurt, when I'm confused, I'm afraid, when I feel alone, I keep following Jesus. I keep my eyes on him. I don't celebrate the pain, but I celebrate his faithfulness. I don't praise the darkness, but I praise the light that he is in the darkness. I don't get excited about the fear, but I cling to the peace that only he gives. Because worship means that I stop doubting and questioning and telling God what should have happened and start thanking him for who he is. And I know some of us in the room, we're not sure this is how we would have written our story. And you might be in a chapter of your story right now that hurts so much. And it's so easy to become critical. It's so easy to be like Judas, be like, what are you doing? You should have known better. Like this isn't how, come on. Or would we be like Mary? I don't get it. I don't understand your timing always. I'm not sure I see exactly what's happening here. But Jesus is in the room. And I'm going to worship him. Because ultimately, it comes down to this. Is he Messiah or is he in the way? That word Messiah in the original Hebrew means anointed one or chosen one. The Greek equivalent was Christos, and that's where we get the word Jesus Christ, but it means the same as Jesus Messiah. And it was a promise given to God's people. Throughout the Old Testament, the prophet, he promised the Messiah, the one who would come to rescue, the one who would come to save, the one who would come to be the way that would lead them out. And that was what generation after generation clung to, the promise of Messiah. He will lead us away. He will be our way to freedom. And they certainly misunderstood. And Pastor Richie talked about it a couple weeks ago, that they thought maybe it meant, leading them out of political oppression, but it was something much bigger than that. He will lead us out of darkness. He would lead them out of sin. He would lead them out of eternal damnation to hell. He would lead them to eternity with God the Father. And he would be the way. And he is the way. But as we navigate life, we have our own ideas and we have our own desires. And we begin to lay our own plans. I think for some of us, Jesus has simply gotten in the way. Because I wanted to go here. I really thought this is the better option. I wanted this. And I can't get there because you're in my way. Because if I follow you, it means I don't go here. If I follow you, it means I don't experience that. If I follow you, I got to give this up. If I follow you, for some of us, I think Jesus is in the way. And when we try to follow him from that place, then we understand why we're not experiencing all the things that he promises us. It's because we're not following him. We've lost sight of how this goes. In fact, let me tell you how it goes. Hebrews 12, verses 1 and 2. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up. And let us run with endurance the race God has set before us. Here's how we do it. We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus, the champion who initiates and perfects our faith. Because of the joy awaiting him, he endured the cross, disregarding its shame. Now he is seated in the place of honor beside God's throne. We know the way, and the way is one thing. I follow Jesus. I put my eyes on Jesus. I don't get distracted by what I think should happen. I don't get distracted by the things that I need to understand. I don't go seeking God for answers. I just simply keep saying this. I'm going to keep my eyes on Jesus. It didn't matter who else is in the room. It didn't matter what was going on in the party. It didn't matter what else needed to be done. It didn't matter the value of the perfume. It didn't matter the criticism she would receive. It didn't matter if other people disagreed with it. She didn't care about any of that. Mary knew one thing: Jesus is in the room and nothing else matters. You want to be a follower of Jesus? Yeah, it starts with salvation. It starts with that moment where you say that prayer, and it's beautiful and it's simple. And maybe you're here today and you don't know Jesus, and that's where you need to start by simply saying, okay, Jesus, I'm a sinner, forgive me. Take my life and get rid of the old. I want to be the new creation that it talks about in the Bible. I don't even know what that's going to mean fully, but yes, save me. Awesome. Done. It's instant. But now we begin this process of following Jesus. And as I follow Jesus, he reveals the things in my life that are not honoring to him. And I begin to shed those things. And the things that want to distract me, I begin to turn away from those. And in the difficult times, I just keep looking for him. In the times of question and doubt and fear, I keep looking for him. That's being devoted. That's worshiping him. That's trusting him. Because if Jesus is in the room, what else could matter? I'm going to ask you to bow your heads with me this morning. Because I know probably a lot of us here are saved. All of us have prayed that prayer to Jesus. And if you haven't, maybe you're here today and you're just like, yeah, I don't really know a lot about this God and Jesus thing, but I know something's got to change in my life. And the simplicity of that prayer doesn't mean it's going to fix your life. I can't tell you that. I know this, it changes everything from the inside out when you simply say, Jesus, forgive me of my sins. I see you as the Savior that God sent to die on a cross for me. And I give you my life. And all of us, at some point, most of us have prayed that prayer and we're saved. But now, check this out, now it's time to start the surrendering. Now it's time to start loosening our grip on the things that we have valued more than Jesus. My plans, my time, my desires, my relationships, my things. Now is the time to stop serving myself and stop looking through this Jesus thing as how does it benefit me, and just simply say, how does this serve him? Now is the time to step into a life of worship, not attending worship. And to worship with my breaths and my thoughts and my decisions and my actions. Now is the time to lock my eyes on him and forget everything else that's around me. Because if Jesus is in the room, nothing else should matter. Father, I'm sorry. Sorry for the times that I've gotten distracted by what I want. I have been greedy at times with you. I've failed to be generous with my life to you. I know there's been times where I've been critical. I've been confused and honestly at times maybe even disappointed that you didn't do what I thought you should, and I'm sorry. This morning, we just let it all go. Whatever we've been holding on to, whatever has been getting in the way, we just give it up. And we see you sitting in the room. There's all these things that want to distract us and vie for our attention and pull us to it. But I pray that we just find this place where none of that matters. I just need to be at your feet. I just need to see you. Because it's Jesus plus nothing. Thank you. Thank you for being the way. Thank you for being our Savior. Thank you for coming and doing what you knew had to be done so that we could be in the same room with you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Let's stand together.
Maybe we made this complicated. My soul will My soul will live to say, Jesus, I love you.
If you're here today and you maybe prayed that prayer for the first time, or you want to know what it means to even pray that prayer, grab this on your way out. It's at the main resource center. It'll tell you everything it means to ask Jesus in your life and what that does. Everyone else seems like a crazy simple challenge, but it's probably not as simple as it sounds. This week, if Jesus is in the room, nothing else matters. Make it about him. Run the race. Fix your eyes on him. We love you. We're praying for you. We really do. We'll see you next week. You're out.